Gentlemen, welcome to the Leawood City Council meeting, the regular meeting for March 18th, 2024. The council will come to order and the clerk will please call the roll.
Mayor Elkins is present and presiding. Councilmember Phila.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
And Councilmember Sippel is absent. Councilmember Kane.
Here.
Councilmember Castor.
Here.
Councilmember Harrison. Here. Councilmember Guyad.
Here.
Councilmember Sunkel.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. I find that a quorum is present this evening. We'll move on to the business of the evening. If you all would stand as you can and follow me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Does staff have any revisions or amendments to the agenda as it was published and presented to the council?
No, Mayor.
If not, do I hear a motion approving the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Councilwoman Phila. The second was from Ms. Kane. All those in favor of approving the agenda as published, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the agenda is approved. I have no citizens that have signed in to comment this evening, so we'll move on to Section 5, proclamations. There are no proclamations, nor are there presentations or recognitions this evening, nor is there any special business. That takes us to the consent agenda. Are there any items that any council member would like to pull from the consent agenda? Ms. Kane.
Item Q as in Queen.
Item Q as in Queen. Thank you. Any others? Yes, Commissioner, or I'm sorry, Councilman Sunkel.
I would like to pull B, please.
B as in boy?
Yes.
Okay. Any others? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented with the exceptions of items B as in boy and Q. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented with the exception of items B and Q, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Pardon me, the ayes have it, and the motion is unanimously approved. Identifying specific items then, Commissioner Sunkel, you asked to pull item B, which relates to my mayoral appointments that were indicated in the agenda.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I had the opportunity to meet both Matt Pepis and Michael Fishman last year, and I think they will be excellent additions. It was one of the pleasures I had over the last year, meeting those two, and I think they'll be excellent additions. I have not met Stan Tate, but I appreciate all of them stepping up to serve, and once again give my thanks to all the community members who step up and volunteer. And with that, I guess I will move to approve B.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Councilman Sunkel to approve. The second came from Ms. Phila, I believe?
Yes.
Thank you. Before we move to a vote on that, I would just note for the record, or to clarify the record, that Mr. Pepis, I think, is appointed to the Historic Commission, Mr. Fishman is to the Planning Commission, and Mr. Tate is to the Arts Council, I believe. That has not, unfortunately for me, that's not completely filled out our roster of appointments, and there will be another tranche next month that should complete them. So my apologies for being a little bit behind. Hopefully it's not put any of the staff members at a disadvantage, but with the transition to a new administration, that process has proven to be a little more arduous and time consuming than I had hoped it would be. There is a motion pending with a second. Is there any other discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor of approving item B, which includes the mayoral appointments to various citizen committees, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and item B is unanimously approved. we will take action. I'll work with Stephen on figuring out the most efficient way to make notifications to those individuals, the related chair people of their committees, as well as the staff liaisons. That now brings us to item Q, which is the police department's monthly report. Ms. Kane, I believe that you asked for additional time on item Q.
Yes, we discussed this last meeting, but it was in this monthly report about for the Super Bowl parade. There was 800 officers down there, 800 total, 600? One or the other. But nonetheless, 12 of them were Leawood police officers, rather, and 2 of ours, our chief, and he's better at explaining that than I am, certainly got the call in their ear that there was an active shooter, and 2 of our officers, Tim Mace and Eric Gould, ran in Union Station when they knew of a problem, didn't miss a beat, ran in with the other officers. So extra shout out to them. Do you have anything to add, Chief, that you already didn't
Chief
add?
Gelfinger, thank you, Ms. Kane. Yes, we had 12 officers who participated, assisted on the Chief's parade, 2 of which you see in the photograph there, who were assigned near the Union Station. And you're correct, when the call went out for assistance that shots were fired and suspects needed to be identified, et cetera. Those 2 particular officers assisted going in and searching through Union Station to make sure the public was as safe as possible there, and to help identify any possible suspects.
Well, congratulations to them, and lucky for all of us, right? Secondly, there's a story in here about how in Johnson County there was an auto burglary, and once again, our Leawood police are like, should be on TV or something. They were the ones that helped identify the person in the photo. And then I heard at the Parks and Rec meeting on Thursday night that our tunnel that goes under Row right here was spray painted, vandalized, and these highly intelligent human beings looked right into the calendar, or the cameras rather, and we were able to, the police, the police were able to identify them as well. So I don't know what makes people think that cameras, they can get away with things these days, but they were quickly found through social media, I understand, doing some kind of identification. So let that be a warning to anybody out there. There are cameras everywhere, and we will get you. Our Leawood police will get you. Do you have anything to add about either one of those, Chief?
Just to add with that last case with the graffiti on the tunnel here, you're absolutely correct again that technology helped identify those suspects, and they were quickly identified, and we'll take it from there.
I mean, they didn't see a license plate or anything like that. They just had their little faces right in front of the camera, like they were on candid camera or something. So, yay. So thank you for all that you do, even, like I said, helping other cities, helping Johnson County as a whole. So it's pretty amazing what our police do. We're very proud to have the force you do. With that, I move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. There's Ms. Larson has seconded. I believe that Ms. Fuller had a comment or question.
I was just curious, and is there any kind of old-fashioned ramifications that they have to paint or undo the damage from the graffiti? Like,
that will be a result of, if they are in fact convicted or what have you, that would be the decision of the court at sentencing.
Parks and Rec already painted it, cleaned it, and painted it, so I know that won't be, one of their responsibilities. I understand it was interesting usage of words and visuals. So yeah, they quickly cleaned it and painted it.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fuller. Thank you, Ms. Kane. Other comments or questions for Chief? Chief Finger, thank you as always. We appreciate the service of you and your department. We have a motion and a second pending to approve Chief Finger's monthly report. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor of approving the police department's monthly report, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and item Q, the Police Department's monthly report, is approved unanimously. Brings us to the mayor's report. I have a number of items to report this evening. I think Mr. Powell is, pardon me, going to help us out with the first one. A number of you probably saw this, but I thought it was worthy of additional mention. You all will recall that last fall, the city of Leawood donated $25,000 to our sister city, the Gaza region of Israel, pardon me, for the construction of a safe room for the region's preschool. At the time of the events of October 7 in Israel, there was no protective space associated with the Gaza preschool, and as Mayor Rotem mentioned to us, she, in her particular community, she's responsible for the school system as well as for the rest of the community, and she had not felt comfortable opening up their preschool until such time as they had that safe room. We were advised last week that the safe room is now complete. As a result of the support of Leawood, Mayor Rotem feels comfortable reopening the preschool to her region's young children. And we got a number of pictures, but I asked Stephen to put up a couple of these. In this picture, you see Mayor Rotem and some of the students who are cutting the ribbon, and it's not clear to me whether that's for the safe room or for the reopening of school or both, but you can tell that everybody's very happy about that. There's another picture there of the mayor and the teachers spending time with the children, having had the preschool, kindergarten age basically reopened. And then the last picture that I wanted to share with you is a sign that they have posted on their school, and it's a little difficult to read, but you can tell that in the fine print there under the sign, it specifically references Leawood, Kansas, and there we go. Thanks, Stephen. Well, almost too much.
Too much?
But the protective space was built in cooperation with our twin city of Leawood, Kansas, and the Jewish Federation of Kansas City.
Oh, yeah, on our logo. Yeah.
And it's got our logo there as well. So again, this is an example of just how substantive our sister city relationships are and the way that we can and do support the needs of our sister cities. So thank you to the governing body before this one, as well as for all of you for your leadership. I think it speaks volumes about us and our place in the world, actually, which is sometimes hard to think about. So thank you, Stephen. Again, thank you all. Secondly, on March the 11th, Monday, the city administrator, assistant city administrator, director of finance, and I met with Bo Bolsfert, hopefully I pronounced that correctly, the Johnson County appraiser. He reviewed the Johnson County Appraisal Office's revaluation report, which is basically the sum of all the reappraisals that have been done in Johnson County for 2024-25 that was released in February. He reports that the rate at which property appraisals has slowed significantly to a more traditional rate. As a result, the average appraised value of non-exempt property in Leawood has risen by about 5.7% as compared to more than 11, nearly 12% last year. That data is now being taken into account by our finance department as they begin the annual, or I shouldn't say begun, they've been working on it already for quite some time, but as they proceed with the annual budget process. Third, on March the 15th, Assistant City Administrator Stephen Powell, Public Works Director David Lay, and I met with Congresswoman Sharice Davids at her office in Overland Park. It was a kind of an introductory meeting, but also a meeting to talk about items of interest to both the Congresswoman and to the city. We discussed the success that David has had in securing federal funding for a number of our new road construction projects, and Congresswoman Davids, along with her staff, talked to us about how they can and will continue to assist us in the future in applying for additional community project grants. That's a relatively new process in Congress. It's becoming more competitive. The first couple of years, there were less applications than there were opportunities for grants to be filled, but now most of the municipalities in the Johnson-Wyandotte County area have become aware of it, and so it's become more of a competitive process now. But we've also presented Congresswoman Davids with some mementos of our 75th anniversary. She appreciated it, and Stephen was happy to reduce his inventory of knickknacks a bit. So that was a very productive meeting, I thought. Next, we have just been interviewing by we at Stephen and the city administrator and I Diane have been interviewing a number of consultants to assist us in developing a new strategic plan. We hope to engage that consultant and begin the process later in this spring. Sooner than later, we've narrowed it down to 2, and we'll be meeting together in the next couple of weeks or so to make a decision or recommendation about the engagement. But it will involve, the process will involve both the governing body, our staff, our volunteers, as well as some of our citizens. We intend to fold into that process the citizen satisfaction, thank you, that's the word I was looking for, citizen satisfaction survey, which has now been distributed. I've had at least one constituent call me and told me that she got it, and normally she would have tossed it, but since I was mayor, she was going to fill it out. So at least one person felt compelled by voting for me to fill out the form. But in all seriousness, we hope that the results of that survey, along with our Homeowners Association President's Conference in April, will both help to inform that process of developing or redeveloping, if you will, a strategic plan, a set of strategic goals that are measurable and achievable, and then ultimately to inform our budgeting process. And fourth, I will say that we have begun the process of nearly impossible process of finding a replacement for the gentleman in the uniform behind Stephen. His retirement is coming up much more quickly than many of us would hope that it would. But I believe that the posting for a new police chief closed today. And we have over 30 applicants at this point in time. We will be reviewing those, and we have a process in place that will include near the end an opportunity for staff as well as for the governing body to meet with the final candidates as we move towards a recommendation. It will also involve members of the public as well as members of the police force will be involved in that process as well. Last, and on a sad note, I am sad to report the passing of Louis Rasmussen. Lou was a longtime resident of Leawood and represented the people of Leawood on the Leawood City Council for many, many years. He was a great leader with a clear vision of Leawood. He was on the council both when I was on the Arts Council as well as when I began on the Planning Commission. Over the years, he contributed tremendously to the development of Leawood generally and the development of what has effectively become our downtown in particular. Lou, as many of you who knew him, was at times a character, but he always communicated his perspective in a very, very clear manner. And we absolutely mourn Lou's passing and extend our condolences to his family and friends. And with that, that concludes my report. Do any council members or governing body members have any questions for me on any of those items? If not, I don't think you have to approve my report, do you?
Sorry.
No? Okay.
Begun.
I'm happy to have you approve it if you wish to. But that takes us on to, pardon me, council member reports. Do any council members have reports that they'd like to enlighten the governing body with at this point in time? If not, we'll go to the city administrator's report. Ms. Stoddard, what do you have for us this evening?
No report at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Stoddard. That takes us to item number 12, committee recommendations. First on the docket is case number 112-23, an ordinance approving a special use permit for Hallbrook Country Club, temporary golf pro shop, and cart storage structures located south of College Boulevard and west of Overbrook Road. I am given to understand that one or more of our council members wishes to recuse themselves from this discussion.
That's correct, Mayor. As a member of Hallbrook Country Club and former Board of Directors member, I'm going to recuse myself to avoid the appearance of impropriety.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Is there another one? Yes,
Yes, and
Dr. Castor.
And I'm also a member of Hallbrook Country Club and a former Board of Directors member there as well, and like to recuse myself for this vote as well.
Thank you. Our record will note that Council Member Larson and Council Member Castor have recused themselves from the consideration of case number 112-23. Who wishes to be heard on this case? Welcome. If you could state your name and business address for our record, we're interested to hear what you have to say.
Good evening. My name is Jason Asper. I'm the general manager at Hallbrook Country Club and representing the club on this matter.
And do you or your client have any objections to the proposal as it's been passed on to us, including the stipulations?
No,
by
I
staff?
do not, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Ms. Kane?
I guess I don't have too much of a question because I can see that it has been resolved. Well, I guess I do have a question. I don't understand how this happened. Seems like a pretty gross oversight or multiple gross oversights. And it's not only the tents went up, I mean, how the tents went up without a permit, without us knowing, without the fire marshal and blocking the fire exits. I mean, that's a very gross oversight. I was a member of Hallbrook for probably 25 years, a long time, no longer, so I don't feel like I need to recuse myself at this point in time. But then I understand that there's also electrical work being done without a permit. So because we've not heard an explanation from you, can you as a GM tell us how this happened?
Well, I wish I had a better response or excuse for that matter, and the honest, frank answer is I don't. The ultimate responsibility falls on me as a general manager, and in full honesty and transparency, I was not aware that a permit was needed for this. We were in front of Planning Commission and City on a handful of occasions as we've been planning our renovation and project, and it never came up. I never thought to ask, which is completely on me. And when I was first notified in end of September and early October that we were required to submit for a permit, first person I called or emailed was Mark Klein to better understand, okay, what have I done? And more importantly, what do I need to do to fix it? And from that very day, we've been very actively involved working with various different staff members, Leawood Fire Department, to obviously right the wrongs that were done. I'm assuming, you're frequently, there's often people up here that are asking for forgiveness and permission, and while it would appear I would be one of those people, I can assure you that was not the case. And had I known about it, and the various different, individuals that were assisting the club with this project, we would have been in front of you, proposing this in the proper form or fashion. The unfortunate truth here is I've probably spent 10x the amount of time trying to fix the past than I could have had I been more proactive or had I asked the right questions and engaged in the right process. So everything that you said, Councilmember Kane, is correct. The mistake is mine and only mine at this point, and we're certainly in front of you today, apologizing for that, but also wanting to make sure that it's done right. We will likely have other projects in the road, and the last thing we would want anybody, whether it be from the Planning Commission, the city staff that have been very gracious in helping us navigate this, is that the club was trying to pull a fast one over the city. It's just simply not the case.
No, I mean, we all love your club. It's a beautiful thing, and a better part of my youth and my children's youth were all spent on your grounds, so thank you for that. I wondered, I didn't read anything that there was some kind of fine or penalty imposed for that. I didn't know if that was standard procedure, of something like that. And, given what you said, and, you're not expected to read minds either. So I dare say that some of the responsibility would fall on our side if nobody thought to mention it to you either. So again, it's always a two-way street.
And if I could, actually, we didn't realize they were going to have the need for the tents. So we found out about them when somebody was driving by, so that's how staff kind of found out. And they have been good as far as trying to work with us since then to rectify everything. As far as a penalty, I don't have anything in the planning as far as for a special use permit to do that. I know that building is kind of, they understand what's out there and they've kind of looked at it a little bit. They may have a penalty as far as applying for the electrical permit or something like that, but planning doesn't have anything like that in the fee schedule for that type of permit.
Because I don't remember my 15 years up here hearing something similar like this, so similar, but I just wondered if there's, again, to keep it from perhaps happening again, or what can we do as far as the city goes to be more proactive, so we don't have something like this happening again. But again, if you didn't know tents were going up, you can't read minds either. So that therein, you know, you can't read minds. Neither can they. So yeah, that goes both ways.
Mr. Torres.
There is, for any building permit work done without permit, we would require a double fee by ordinance. So, and a lot of times that can be quite a little bit, just depending on the cost of construction or whatever. So, and we'll charge that in this case as well.
All right, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Additional questions for the applicant? If not, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Thank you, Ms. Harrison. Any additional discussion of the motion? If not, this is an ordinance and takes us to a roll call vote. Mr. Powell, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Phila,
Aye.
Councilmember Kane,
Aye.
Councilmember Sunkel,
Aye.
Councilmember Guyad,
Aye.
and Councilmember Harrison.
Aye.
Okay, so I have a vote of 5 ayes and 2 abstentions, which I think makes the requisite requirement to approve the ordinance proposed in case number 112-23, and the ordinance is adopted. The council now calls case number PC 17-24, resolution approving a final plan for Leawood City Park shelter replacements located south of I-435 and east of Lee Boulevard. Who from staff wishes to be heard on case number 17-24? I think Ms. Claxton is on her way. Mark, so you're saved by the bell. Good evening, Ms. Claxton. Welcome as always.
Good evening. Chris Claxton, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Arts. So we are bringing this before you as it has passed the Planning Commission. And this is for the shelter replacements at City Park, which includes the Lion Shelter, the 2 shelters on top, the hill to the east, also installing a restroom there, which can be utilized by the soccer that takes place in that area, of course, the dog park, and the sand volleyball. The other, the Lion Shelter, which will still be called the Lion Shelter, on the west side of the park, we will be taking that down, and there will be a separate adjoining, but not literally adjoining to the shelter, a restroom. We've increased the women's restroom and added some other features to the interior of those. So that's basically the project. We do have our design consultants here tonight, BB&N Architects. If you had any questions, also our engineer from Continental is here as well if you would like any specifics other than the stipulations from the Planning Commission.
Thank you, Ms. Claxton. Yes, Ms. Larson.
Chris, I had a question about the West Shelter, the Lion Shelter. When I've been in the presently constructed shelter, there was a large amount of noise from 435. We scheduled a meeting there, an HOA meeting there, and we had a hard time hearing one another because of the traffic noise from 435. Were there considerations in like turning the shelter so that maybe the concession stand would block that noise, or if I was just wondering about that.
So we didn't discuss that, and I think the primary reason is we're basically putting the shelter back in the exact same footprint, because we do have the all-inclusive playground on the north,
Right.
the art piece on the west. the maintenance building on the east. So that's one of the reasons that we didn't consider that. And honestly, I don't know if it would have made a difference. I think that's a good question, but that's the reasoning behind it.
Or if there's any way to incorporate some noise blocking additions to help with that. It was probably discussed, and I was just curious about that first point. And then my second point, the fireplace in the west shelter. First, the building looks terrific. I love the stone that's been incorporated, and especially at the base of the pillars. I think it's a very tasteful and attractive building. And I was just wondering about the need for the fireplace. Is that, I know that masonry is very expensive, and what was the discussion on having a fireplace in the shelter?
So staff had visited a recently opened facility in Shawnee, and they had put a fireplace in a shelter very similar to this, and they had shared that it was a very popular amenity and more popular than they thought it would be. So we looked at that. What we are asking in the construction documents is that they put in the blocks, and then we will come in and our staff will put the stone on, because we have some stone that's left over from a couple projects, including the golf course. So we're able to keep that at a minimum. The other thing is that we would do something similar when somebody wants to reserve that shelter. One of the questions would be, do you have a desire to use the fireplace? And then we would provide the wood, similar to what we do at Ironwoods at the fire pit. Also what we do at Gezer Park, for two reasons. One, we don't want people bringing wood that may be inhabited with insects or other things that could, be detrimental to the park. And then also we know how much they're burning. We do have people in the park at night because we don't want somebody at any of those locations just coming in and, burning a lot of wood all the time.
Okay. Thank you. Love the fire pit at Ironwoods, and to know that it was a well-received amenity at a different park is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Yes, Ms. Kane.
Yes, I sit on Parks and Rec, but I saw some information here that I don't think we discussed yet. I see that in one of the shelters, we're going from 2 grills down to 1, and then the other, if I'm reading this correctly, we're going from 4 grills down to 1. Did I read that correctly?
That doesn't sound correct. Is it? Oh. Which one had 4?
The east one actually had 2 on the north side, 2 on the south side.
So that may be correct. Sorry, I didn't catch that detail.
I didn't catch, we never talked about it in Parks and Rec either.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it's the thing about that is those 2 shelters on the east side are separate. So that's probably why they had 2 grills, and those shelters have been there since the middle 70s.
Right.
So why they thought they needed 2 grills for each shelter, I don't know, because they're not very big.
Right.
So I think 1 grill would probably be adequate for that. And that's what we have, I believe, is 1 now on the east shelter.
1 and 1 is what I'm reading
Correct.
here. But can we tell when a shelter is rented if they're using the grill or not? I mean, do we have some history there to support that decision?
Not really. We also have people that will ask to bring their own grill. We do allow that, as long as they fill out a special use application and that they understand the grill cannot be placed underneath the shelter. Even in this instance, some of our new requirements, the grill cannot be right next to the shelter. I believe it has to be 10 feet. That's correct. 10 feet away from the shelter. So that came from the fire marshal.
Well, I appreciate reading that we're lowering our impervious pavement area in both of them, so that I think that's an amenity, because we always worry about runoff, and those are 50-year-old shelters, 50-some-odd-year-old shelters, so it's about time. I know we talked about the budget, and I know you had to go back and kind of cut, and so remind me or remind the council, are we on budget with that? I know on our next item, the Leawood Foundation is helping fundraise, so where do we fall in line with the budget on these two
So
shelters?
the Leawood Foundation is fundraising for the Tomahawk Park Playground.
Correct.
They're not participating in this.
Right.
So we are still over budget, and we're getting some new estimates on this particular project. So that's something that I think we're going to have to look. And I was working on my report for April 1st today, and I think we're going to be speaking with Don Cobby, our finance director, to talk about the funding and where we are with the overages and see where we are with particularly where we are with special park fund, and if it can cover the overage in this project and anything that ends up being the overage in the playground project. So we've asked the foundation to fundraise $150,000 for the playground, and I think that project was $157,000 over the budget. So we're pretty close on that one. This one, we're going to have a little bit more difficulty, I think, because the prices have gone up.
Right, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I mean, those are very well-used shelters. I mean, we haven't replaced them in over 50 years. I hate to think that we're having to slash and burn these two shelters because of a certain art project that went way the heck over. So I'm very sensitive to that. We've talked about that in different meetings. And then timeline, I don't know that I read or I remember that the timeline associated with replacing these two shelters.
So that's one thing we met with the architects last week. There's a couple challenges that we're trying to work around. One is soccer. So both spring and fall soccer, because it's, as you know, it's when soccer's going on Saturday, the park is very, very busy with soccer. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that. We've got to look at staging areas. And the other project is the Johnson County wastewater mainline extension. Again, staging, you know, what comes first and how do we manage that throughout these two projects. So I think right now we've talked about the timeline would be March 2025 before we're completely done, just because of the staging and trying to work around our soccer leagues and the wastewater mainline extension.
Well, thank you. I too agree that they're very handsome-looking buildings and definitely needed. So thank you for everything. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Ms. Phillip.
I was just going to ask, we got special funds from the opiate settlement that was dispersed, the opiate settlement money for the alcohol and drug use, and part of that comes into the parks budget.
I'm not familiar with that.
But through the alcohol use tax that comes back to the cities.
The special park fund?
Right,
Yeah.
half of
But
it's for parks. And then when the opiate settlement money was distributed to the states, we used the same process at the county to distribute that, and I wondered how that might have impacted incoming funds.
The opiate settlement funds were distributed directly to another outside agency. You are correct that the alcohol funds are distributed via a formula, part of which goes to parks. But the opioid money that was part of the settlement did not follow that.
Okay, thank you
Yes.
for clarifying that for me. Darn.
Thank you, Ms. Phillip. Other questions? Well, thank you, Ms. Claxton. If not, is there a motion relative to case number 17-24?
Motion to approve?
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Any discussion of the motion? If not, all those in favor of approving Planning Commission case number 17-24, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is unanimously approved. The council now calls Planning Commission case number 7-24, resolution approving a final plan for Tomahawk Park playground replacement and expansion located south of 119th Street and west of Mission Road. Ms. Claxton, do you wish to be heard on this case?
Yes, please. Again, Chris Claxton, Director of Parks, Recreation, and Arts. So this project has been going on for a little while. We had a little bit of a stall, if you will, meeting our regulations about the no rise in the floodplain. We were able to work that out with our engineer and also with Public Works and our architect. So that's been addressed. And right now it would be a sole source just because of the vendor, and we'll be bringing that agreement to you. But most of you know that is the oldest shelter, that is the oldest playground in our system. It was originally planned for 2 to 5-year-olds. We can't get parts for it. And the new facility will be 2 to 5-year-old and 5 to 12. And then we're also expanding back into the wooded area with some educational signage that's been identified, and also some lower type of play equipment that's not like a big playground, which you see in your packet. The shelters that are there, the one we have, as you know, is very small. It's kind of a whoever gets there and you kind of share. We will have a small shelter like that people can just drop into and still come and not have to. The other one will be a bigger shelter, and it will be a reservable shelter. So if somebody wants to have a birthday party, they can have their group over there, and then the other shelter will still be open. So we are looking forward to replacing that, and we're just working to get the approval so that we can start working on the process of getting it installed.
Thank you. Questions from Ms. Claxton? Yes, Ms. Larson.
I think it is time for this park to see some improvements. We have always known it as the Blue Park, so, and I have very fond memories, and now it's going to be the Purple Park, purple and green. And I am obviously out of the loop on playground equipment, because this kind of looks crazy to me, but I trust the experts. I think that this addition to the parks is way overdue. I think it'll be used greatly, and thank you for all the work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Larson. Other questions or comments? Yes, Ms. Villa.
I would just say that some of this playground begins to look like what's at Meadowbrook, and having firsthand experience, I can tell you, not only are they fun for the kids, but they're pretty fun for everybody. So, and the kids just love some of these new things that, they are really, really quite lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Villa. Ms. Kane.
And I might add, too, we always called it the Blue Park, too. So this won't be done till fall. I do know that because I asked that question on Thursday night. So it'll get started in fall. So another shout out to the Leewood Foundation for $2,550. What did you say?
We've asked for $150,000, so that's what their fundraising goal is.
And there's a QR code. There's 2 signs with QR codes. So we looked it up. They are the donations are coming in for that park, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, I kept trying to push for blue something there, because everybody I know calls it the Blue Park, but now we'll call it the Purple Park, I suppose. So thank you.
Welcome.
So I'm forced to ask Ms. Claxton, because I've heard this numerous times, why was it called the Blue Park?
Because the elements were blue.
Yeah.
I see. So
So we're trying
when
to
I started
change
going
it
to
up
the
a little
park,
bit.
there wasn't much blue left in it. So
Yeah.
I think it's suspicious our new mayor is a Kansas State Wildcat, and we're getting a Purple Park.
you get what you get, is all I can say.
Well, one of the things we know is that children are very attracted to colorful, so we like the combination of the purple and the lime green, so we think it'll be a hit. So
When you have little people, you don't say Tomahawk Creek Park. You go the Blue Park. That's their language. So that's
Exactly.
We all called it the Blue Park. Yeah.
Any
Thank you.
other questions or comments? If not, do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Thank you, Ms. Kane. Thank you, Ms. Larson. Discussion of the motion. If not, all those in favor of approving Planning Commission case number 7-24 indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The ayes have it, and the motion is unanimously approved, as is the resolution regarding Planning Commission case number 7-24. Thank you, Ms. Claxton. Appreciate all your work on both of these
Thank you.
projects. That takes us to old business. I have nothing on my agenda for old business. Any other from the council? No new business as well. As with respect to upcoming meetings, Counselor, do we need to approve any of the meetings that are listed here?
No, those are just on there as a notice so that everybody knows where we are and what times they are.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. In that case, I would note that our next meeting is Monday, April the 1st, 2024. I hope there's no significance to that April 1st date when we'll have a regular meeting of the governing body. Is there any other business to come before the governing body this evening? If not, we are adjourned.